Yo, what is going on, NFL family? Welcome back to the J All Day Show. My last prediction video did great. Thank you guys so much for all the support. This week, I want to break down all the NFL Week 1 games with my score predictions. We're less than 1 week away from training camp. Not much has changed. I've just been doing a little bit more research and trying to figure out where we can find an edge in Week 1's games. All right. Let's talk about this Baltimore Ravens Kansas City Chiefs game. The more I break down the Ravens roster, we see so much turnover. It's less than 60% of the starters that started for the team last year will be starting this year. Like 20 free agents walked. Just a ton of turnover. They did draft pretty well, in my opinion, and I like that they got Derrick Henry, but I think it's going to take some time for this roster to gel. And the Chiefs are just coming off that Super Bowl buzz, man. They pretty much have the same team intact, minus L'Jarius Sneed, one of their best man-to-man corners, which I don't really care too much about in this game because the Ravens don't necessarily have the best wide receivers in the world, right? So I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs 24-13 to get the W to open up the season. Then we move on to the Green Bay Packers traveling on the road at the Eagles, but it's not really at the Eagles because they're playing in Brazil. I love the way the Green Bay Packers draft. Getting a guy like Edgerrin Cooper to play linebacker for them was a huge deal. Getting Xavier McKinney from the New York Giants to solidify that secondary, also very, very huge. On the other side of the ball, the Philadelphia Eagles, new offensive coordinator with Kellen Moore, who's got that kind of spread, kind of shotgunny, fun, a lot of pre-snap motion offense. I really like that. And a new defensive coordinator, the old school Vic Fangio, coming over from the Miami Dolphins. I still don't really like the Eagles' defense. I don't know if they did enough, especially with losing Hassan Reddick and Fletcher Cox. They brought in some free agents, and they've also brought in some rookies that I like. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, very, very good players. CJ Gardner-Johnson is back at the safety position. It's going to be, can the Eagles score enough points to beat the Green Bay Packers? That offense is absolutely epic, but I think it might take a little time for that Kellen Moore scheme to kind of gel with all the pieces the Eagles have. So I'm looking at the Green Bay Packers to win a really close game, 24-20. But if the Eagles snuck by with a last-minute drive to win the game, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But right now, as it is, before we start training camp, the Packers are going to win this game 24-20. Then let's move on to Pittsburgh at Atlanta, man. This is the game I've been going back and forth with. I can't really get a good grasp of who I think is going to win this game. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a really good defense. Two of the best edge rushers in the game with TJ Watt and Highsmith. Very, very talented players. But the Atlanta Falcons have a really good offensive line and great weapons. We got Drake London. We got Kyle Pitts. We got Bijan Robinson. And the first game for Kirk Cousins coming off that Achilles tear. I'm going to go with the home team here, man. Barely 20-17 for the Atlanta Falcons. But if Pittsburgh won, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think that Falcons win a very, very close game, 2017. That home field advantage really comes into play in the fourth quarter. Arizona at the Buffalo Bills. It's a big spread. I think it's over 7 points. Arizona, the defense is just not very good at all. They did upgrade the wide receiver position for Arizona, drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., and I love McBride, the tight end. This offense is going to be a lot better, but I think that defense holds them back. The Buffalo Bills, another roster with a ton of turnover, especially on defense. The wide receiver room is going to be completely different. I like James Cook, and you got to love Josh Allen, right? That's why I think the Buffalo Bills win this game, but it's a little closer than people think, 24-17 for Buffalo. Let's move on to the Titans at the Bears. I'm definitely going to be watching this game for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how these two teams, a lot of moving parts for both these teams too. Obviously, the Bears brought in Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, their first-round draft picks. They also brought in DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen. They had DJ Moore. This is a really good offense, right? The defensive line is just okay. The defense is slightly above average in my opinion. And then on the Titans, horrible last year. Very, very, very bad offensive line. They added some pieces to that offensive line in the draft with J.C. Latham. They also brought in Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator from the Bengals, to coach this team. They also brought in his dad from the Cleveland Browns, who pretty much every coach in the NFL says that Brian Callahan's dad, is the best offensive line coach in the NFL. Can he coach them up enough to be ready to beat the Bears in week 1? I think it's a tall task. I've been going back and forth. The wide receiver crew for the Titans is really good. We got DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. Very, very interesting wide receiver core there. And I like Will Levis. I think he's going to be a decent starting quarterback at the NFL level. But I like the Bears to win this game because there's a lot of turnover with the Titans, man. I think it's going to be close, but it's going to be a fun game to watch. I'm saying 21-17, the Bears get it done. Then we have the Bengals at home against the New England Patriots. The Patriots' offense is not going to be very good. It looks like Jacoby Brissett is probably going to be the starter there day one. Their defense was one of the best defenses in the NFL in the second half of the year. But the Bengals got Joe Burrow back, man. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. The Bengals did lose Joe Mixon in free agency, so they have kind of a new look offense too. We'll see what their new offensive coordinator can do for the Bengals because they lost Brian Callahan to the Titans. But I just think their offense is going to be too much, and the Patriots' offense is just not going to score any points, right? So Joe Burrow is going to do just enough. 17-13. I think it's going to be a little closer than that 9-point spread. The Bengals get this game in the bag. Then probably one of my favorite games of the week, the Texans on the road at the Colts, right? This game is going to be a lot of fun. I love the Colts getting Latu in the draft. Anthony Richardson is back healthy. The Houston Texans were very good last year, man. C.J. Stroud was one of the most impressive rookies I've ever seen. His ability to read defenses, kind of make adjustments at the line of scrimmage, and just keep the chains moving consistently on third down was so unbelievably impressive. And I think this is going to be a close game, but I'm looking for the Texans to squeak out a game here, guys, 27-20. Jaguars at the Dolphins. A lot of change on both sides of the ball here. So, the Jacksonville Jaguars lost Calvin Ridley, but they added Gabe Davis. I think that's a downgrade in my opinion. When you look at the Jaguars roster, there's like nobody on that team minus Josh Allen, the D lineman, that I'm like scared about. Not on defense, not on offense. I just don't like the Jaguars roster at all whatsoever. I actually think Miami blows them out, 31-17. The Dolphins lost some offensive line help with Robert Hunt, one of the best offensive linemen in the interior part of offensive line. He's gone. He's with the Carolina Panthers. They also added some good players on defense, Jordan Brooks and Kendall Fuller. So I really think the defense will be okay. They just didn't really gel with Vic Fangio. Fangio is kind of that old school, kind of hit you in the mouth kind of defense. And these guys in Miami, I don't know, they're not that tough, gritty defense that Vic Fangio is kind of going to vibe with. That's why I think he went to Philly. It's more, in Miami, these players are going to the beach at night. They're going out to dinner. They're hanging out. And Fangio is just like football. So the defense will be okay there. They add some pieces. They might be a little rough in the first few games because a lot of their players got injured late in the season last year, so we'll have to see how those injuries play out and who's healthy and who's not as we get closer to game day. Then we have the Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints, right? As we're looking at this game, Carolina lost Brian Burns to the New York Giants, their best pass rusher. This team is very young. They drafted Jonathan Brooks out of Texas, Xavier Legette, a big DK Metcalf body type kind of wide receiver, but I just think they're too young and inexperienced. And when you go to New Orleans, who I don't think is a very impressive team at all, but playing in that dome is really tough. This game is actually going to be a little closer than people think too. 24-20. The Saints barely beat a Panthers team that's going to slowly, as the year goes on, get a little bit better and better. Minnesota Vikings at the New York Giants. This is another game I'm going back and forth on. The New York Giants with Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns could wreak havoc on the Minnesota Vikings offensive line and get in Sam Darnold's face. It looks like Sam Darnold's going to be the starting quarterback. J.J. McCarthy's probably going to come in maybe halfway through the year, or if Sam Darnold gets hurt or really, really struggles. But Darnold has all the weapons he needs, right? T.J. Hawkinson, they got Addison, who just got a DUI, so he might be suspended actually. And of course, the best receiver in my opinion in the NFL, Justin Jefferson. So who wins this game? If Addison does not play and is suspended for the first couple games because of the DUI, I think the Giants win this game. It's going to be a close game, but I just think Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns are going to be able to get Sam Darnold off his spot and force some turnovers, and the Giants are going to win a close game 20-17. All right, then we have the Raiders versus the Chargers. This is another game I'm going back and forth on too. The Raiders had a really solid draft, man, bringing in Brock Bowers, who was my favorite player in this draft. He stood out on tape. To me, he's a tight end more than anybody else in this entire draft. If you guys got some time, go check out his highlights. The dude is an absolute monster. But the Raiders don't really have a quarterback, right? Is it going to be Gardner Minshew? Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell? I don't know what the hell is going to happen there. Is Devontae Adams unhappy there? Is he going to make a reunion and go to the Jets or something crazy like that? I don't know what's going to happen. But Las Vegas also added Christian Wilkins to that D-line, which I really, really like to add him to a D-line that already has Max Crosby. That D-line is going to be super sick. And that's why I think the Raiders win this game. I just think they're a better roster. I think the Chargers are going to struggle out of the gate to kind of figure out their identity and who they want to be. We know Harbaugh wants to run the ball, right? But they don't really have a great running back situation. They don't have a great wide receiver situation. I think they're really going to struggle on third down, especially when you got guys like Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins breathing down your neck. That's why I think the Raiders win this game. Another close game, guys, 17-14. And then we move on to the Denver Broncos at Seattle. To me, if Seattle had an offensive line that was any good at all whatsoever, they would be a top 3 team in the NFC. But that offensive line is terrible. They have great weapons, but they did draft 3 offensive linemen this year, so we'll see how that plays out, right? And going against a rookie quarterback on the road, I think they easily win this game. I think it's going to be 24-10. I don't think Bo Nix is going to be that comfortable. If I'm the DC of Seattle, I'm blitzing the shit out of him and making him super uncomfortable. Cowboys at the Browns. The Cowboys' offensive line, especially at the tackle positions, actually all over that offensive line, is not very good. If Zeke Elliott is your best player at the running back position, and to me, teams are just going to double and triple cover CeeDee Lamb and make other people beat them. And that's why I think the Cowboys are going to be very predictable this year. I don't think they have enough juice to beat the Cleveland Browns. The Browns defense with Myles Garrett, that defensive line, the corners are really good there with Denzel Ward. I like the Browns to win this game pretty easily, actually, guys, 23-10. And then Washington Commanders on the road versus Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are pretty much bringing back their whole team from last year, and the Commanders are a mismatch, man. They lost a lot of players in free agency. Key losses: safety Cameron Curl and cornerback Kendall Fuller, right? And they already lost Chase Young and Montez Sweat on the D-line. That defense is going to be an abomination. They were horrible last year with those 2 really good players that they lost. This is going to be one of the historically worst defenses in NFL history. Dan Quinn is luckily a pretty good defensive mind. He was the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys last year. He's now their head coach. And they're bringing in Cliff Kingsbury, the former Arizona head coach, to coach the offense at OC. I think Tampa Bay blows them out. I say 27-13, something like that. And then we have this game. I can't even talk because I'm so excited about this game. My favorite game of the week: Detroit Lions at home versus the LA Rams. This is going to be a lot of fun, man. They went heavy. The Rams did on defensive line in the draft. They also got Kobe Turner, who's a stud. The D-line has to replace the production from Aaron Donald, right? They got Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, solid running back. This team is very, very good. But I think the Detroit Lions are just a little bit better. Their only real weaknesses was in the secondary, and they went out and drafted 2 studs in Ennis Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold early in the draft. This team is really, really, really impressive. 3 out of the 4 guys on their D-line had over an 82 PFF grade, and they also added D-lineman DJ Reader and guard Zach Zeitler to an already very formidable offensive line. This team is the team to beat in the NFC, in my opinion. Better than the Eagles, better than Tampa Bay, better than San Francisco is the Detroit Lions. And they're going to win a really close game, kind of a shootout, 27-24 for the Lions. Then we have the Jets at San Francisco, right? So Brandon Ayuk came out yesterday saying he is requesting a trade and he doesn't want to play for San Francisco anymore because they couldn't come to a deal. That's going to hurt them a little bit, and this is going to be my upset of the week. The Jets are going to go on the road with, in my opinion, the best defense in the NFL, and they got Aaron Rodgers, an upgraded offensive line, I think good, just good enough to beat San Francisco in a very, very close game, 23-17. Aaron Rodgers gets it done. That's my upset of the week, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Do you agree with my picks? Do you hate my picks? Am I a genius or an absolute dipshit? I would love to hear your opinions on my picks in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We're getting closer and closer to 5,000 subscribers. The last prediction video, we added 60 new subs on. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot. I'm going to do so many bets for you guys this year, and we're going to make so much cash. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you on the next video. Peace.